Like, okay, this is where I'm gonna actually like explain how I approach this shit. So yeah, you guys can ask me questions or whatever. Um, but yeah, your voices are not gonna be on the in the what you call it, your our d- video audio video. But I do have to blow my nose before I start because I don't know, sinuses. Not a cold, not a cold, but sinus. I think I think my OBS is actually taking more and more noise compared to uh, Discord. The Discord has a noise cancellation. The OBS has one, but I don't know how it's taking all the additional noise. I have a feeling it does. I guess I don't know. So, anyways, like the entire video is gonna sound stupid because your voices are not gonna be in the recording, right? Like it's just me saying something and me answering something. It's gonna be funny, and I'm completely fine with that. That is where I cue in, like, thank you for listening to Radio Cheeky, brought to you by nobody. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. Okay. So, I was working on an environment. The environment had a requirement, and that's the first thing I do. Okay. The requirement is I needed like a monolith like tower, which is in the middle of the city, and the sorry, the entire city is like you could say like alive or like exists because of this monolith tower, right? But it's a very normal futuristic style city, like science fiction, partly cyberpunk, partly not cyberpunk. A little bit of fantasy involved in it, but like not the crazy fantasy. So nothing too crazy. Okay. So this is how I went about it. I said like, okay, what if I use like photo templates, or what if I use like uh, drawings or paint ideas, like roughly to fill out what my colors are gonna be, what my um, what my stage is gonna look like, because this is actually being made for a fighting game. So it's gonna be like two characters standing in the middle, in the front, in the foreground, and this monolith is like towering in the back. So in this stage, I was just thinking of the colors and how it's gonna be placed. Right. This is the one time, by the way, when I do not follow the rule of thirds. Like you guys know what the rule of thirds is, right? um, the one in which you have like the objects broken down in a grid, and you place the objects on either side of the canvas, but like it should be like 3/4 into that side of the canvas, right? So this is where I'm actually breaking the rule of thirds. And then I went and did additional sketches, and these were like failed attempt ideas because I went from a monolith to weird towers, and the person who's explaining me that it needs to be a monolith, uh, needs to function like a monolith, like look like one. So then I went back and said, yeah, and they were like, yeah, this stuff looks cool, but we're not gonna use it. And I was like, okay, fine. But they like the idea that there's like this weird circular structure that's shooting a beam of light into the air, kind of thing, right? So they said like, hey, why don't we take that idea, but like we work on it. And then I came up with like, other possible thought processes. Okay, if I want it to be a monolith, how I'm gonna look at it. And they said like, you don't have to do a crazy design. It can be like a simple monolith, and that's completely fine, right? Because at the end of the day, the monolith is part of the background, and it while it should look cool, and this is where like actual conceptualization and design comes into play. While it should look cool, it's still background art, and it should not drive away the focus of the players who are playing the game, and the characters are going to be in the foreground. So then I started coming up with ideas on how the placement will be, and this was like a rough idea, and I was like, okay, what if the monolith is this way? And I marked the stuff in yellow, saying like, okay, that's going to be where the placement of the screens are going to be, and how the camera is going to move around, and how we have the health bar and everything, right? Following that, I started actually sketching, and I said like, okay, the requirement also came in that the you don't have to showcase the full monolith, you can show just the base. And I was like, okay, that actually helps me a lot. And with that, I came to this specific placement where the players are going to be in the foreground, and it's going to be like a road with zebra crossings, like a crossroad marking and everything, and they're going to be fighting in the foreground, and the whole city is at the back with the city skyline going all the way to the monolith. So this, when I showed the sketch to my client, and he was like, oh, this is what we're looking for. There's one more sketch, by the way, which is this one. It had a little more skewed perspective, and I was like, yeah, well, this perspective is good. I was like, okay, I want the monolith to be far away, not that close, so we went with this one. How I took the idea was, there's a breakdown here, by the way, and this is for the environment art part, right? Let me just, I don't know why I got a stuffy nose when I'm doing all this. This happened to me in the other class as well, while I was taking another class on Thursday with the mentorship program, and I get a stuffy nose as soon as I start the class. I don't know, maybe I'm allergic to taking classes, bro. Okay, you can type. What are you so worried about? Yeah. Maybe you're. I'm mostly not reading the chat. Oh, that's fine. Okay, maybe then I'll unmute the desktop audio so that people can. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll just unmute the desktop audio so that you, like, now if you speak, your voice is gonna be recorded.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're asking questions, then definitely. I'm just gonna look at the chat every now and then, but like I'm not gonna actively be looking at the chat. Okay. Here we go. So the breakdown for environment art, especially this kind of stuff when you're doing it at a big scale, I actually made notes around this, and that is, you have the sky, and you decide how you want the sky to be. So I was like, okay, what if the sky has this kind of a division, right? Oh, actually, let's watch it. The sky has this kind of a division, and this part of the sky, which I'm marking in like diagonal lines, or the brighter region, and this is the darker region. Okay. This is for BG, the very far away BG, basically the sky BG, right? And I'm explaining the breakdown here, like basically how I plan shit, like how I plan all of this, right? And then comes the tower itself. What I do for the tower is I'm like, okay, here's the tower. Okay, and this is its own, its own asset. And we got the city line, which is far away from us, but close to the tower. Or you could say the city skyline in this case, right? But it's like close to the tower. These are, so this will be city skyline. this is a tower. Right. So this is another BG. You could say BG2, right? And this is BG1. Okay. Then comes the midground. So I just call it MG, right? And midground are the buildings that are in between, buildings or roads, right? That are in between the foreground where the players are standing and the background, of course, where the tower in the sky is, right? So this is the third asset that I plan. And additional to that, maybe the closest buildings are also part of midground. So the ones which are kind of bleeding out of the screen, right? So this is what I plan, and this is midground. Right? And then finally, the foreground, which I call FG, is just the road where the players are standing. Right. If you do this every single time, you're definitely gonna have a much easier time to, designing an environment, even if it's just for illustration. I do this for making games, but even if you're designing environments just for illustrations, this is a very nice approach of like breaking down your environments and creating like these kind of short notes. This kind of drawings is something only I will understand for myself. I don't need other people to see this and for them to understand this. So I just do it for myself, and they're like like chicken scratches kind of thing. So I do this all the time, and this is what I call like the planning stage for like when I'm going to start any illustration book, especially if it's big environments, because it's just going to help. It just makes work so much more easier, right? And then similarly comes references. These were the references I picked up from my things that I wanted, and especially these buildings. If you go to the sketch, you'll notice like these buildings are kind of in there, and that's these two buildings on this far side. And then I just like stretch it out, and then I say, okay, I'm taking this entire building complex and this building which is like close, and then like putting them together and kind of creating my own version around it. That's how I use references, and I like pay attention to like if I want to make anything in detail, right? And it helps. It helps so much because I just have to make this building. I don't have to like design a building from scratch. Like I'm just referencing this building in this case. And similarly for the skyline, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the skyline. Look at the sky. The sky has a bright area which is like closer to the city, because there's city lights which are bouncing into the sky, causing the area around there to be like a little brighter. And as it goes above, it just becomes deep blue, which is like, and it's dark and just a little more desaturated kind of thing. So that's how it helps you understand that this is how I can design the sky. Now, if I remove the sketch, this is basically the simple structure of the sky. It's just a solid brush. Honestly, it's not exactly the solid brush. It's more like if I was to use the default Photoshop brushes, it's this hard round brush with pressure opacity. That's it. Although I kind of made one which is a little more varying, because the pressure opacity brush, that the default one, is a little too soft for my taste, so I prefer a brush which is a little more harder around the edges. So I made this one just using the default brush kind of thing. So yeah, and this is just the basic sky. It's not even blended or anything like that, and it's that easy. I just but the moment you put the sketch in front of it, it looks so much more better. Right? And of course I have my perspective grid. Everyone knows perspectives, or like just the basics of it. So I'll take that part of the lesson some other time, right? And then I started painting the tower over the sky, like over the tower, the sketch. Like in this case, I don't have to worry about um, painting something underneath another layer. The reason the reason is these notes. Like I already made the division of what is going to go where and how in these notes. So I'm just following those notes. I'm building this. Similarly, I create like this form of atmosphere. Just for the lights to bounce. And then let's say I create a new layer, which will be called skyline, right? And I'm gonna pretty much do the same thing. I'm gonna take like I think this brush is good enough, yeah. And I'm just gonna create a skyline, right? And this doesn't have to be in the same layer as the tower and all the other things. But I'm just creating a skyline, and the skyline can go all the way back. This is the reason why it's on a separate layer, because now I can paint this without the worry of like, oh, I'm gonna paint over something else. This is when you're using your layer systems in the first place. So yeah, there you have it. This is like the simple way. And also, if you're using a hard brush, it's fine. Honestly, use a hard brush, because you don't have to worry about colors, or like, oh, I need to do blending, or I need to like render it correctly. Don't worry about this. Just use like solid brushes and mark the areas where you're gonna be rendering it. This is actually, by the way, a skill that you can pretty much transition if you're a digital artist. If you start off as a digital artist and you are like, oh, I'm a digital artist first and I'm going into traditional now, this technique, or like this practice, is kind of like you can transfer it from one medium to the other. It's because this is not medium dependent. Like especially if you're using oil paints, you can actually do this very thing. You just make solid blockouts of the painting that you want to create first, which I would call local colors, and then painting
Is it just
the
me, or
lighting.
Cheeky's not talking?
Oh no, I'm talking. Can you not hear me? Hello? Yeah, I am talking.
Oh,
Yeah.
BRB.
BRB. The person who was going to narrate the questions apparently cannot hear my voice. God damn. Technical issues.
Okay.
Setting up elevator music. Dun, 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 dun. So,
Technical issue fixed.
yeah, technical issue fixed. Okay, we're back. So I was explaining oil painting. You can transfer these techniques from traditional to digital, as well as digital to traditional. You're taking one color and blocking out the paint, and then you only paint within the blockouts, if you get what I mean, right? Maybe I can take a different brush, honestly. A bit too solid, and like I prefer a square brush in these kind of cases. I'm not trying to create like the perfect what do you say, building here. Like I don't really have to worry about that. I just have to create something that's good, right? That's all. So, and this layer is basically creating the skyline, and that's what I'm gonna do. So, just that. I don't even have to worry about this part, honestly, because they're going to be hidden, so I don't have to actually paint them. So yeah, if somebody is like, oh, why am I painting this part? I'm like, sure, don't paint them. You don't really need to, and that's completely okay. So yeah. So this is the skyline. Right, you don't really need that part. This is the part I need. This is skyline. I probably make a secondary skyline, which will go behind the environment, and I'll probably shift it a bit, right, and reduce the size. I think this will go even behind the tower. There you go. Something like this, right? Something like this. Right? There you go. Right? And this will go all the way behind the tower as well. So, yeah, there you have it. Like, you can create a variation like this. Now, the second skyline, which is on the far back, doesn't really need two colors. It just needs that one color. But this skyline here, it may need another additional color. So what I would do is, I would take a lighter tone because I've worked with a darker one right now. I would just create the secondary tone to where the light direction is from. So let's just say the light is coming from this side, which is from the left side of the canvas, and you know where this area is a lot more brighter of the sky, to the darker areas are like on the right, you know, all the shadows are on the right. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create lighter tones which are directional, which kind of showcase like, hey, the light's coming from the left, kind of thing. That's about it, right? Not too hard. These are the kind of things just simplify your work so much that you don't worry about how I'm gonna render lighting. And they're all solid colors, you know, like I'm not trying to render anything right now. It's just solid colors. And I'm not trying to even like light up every single part of the silhouette of these you know, these buildings. I'm just lighting up areas which I want to. That's all. So how do I know this? It's just trial and error. Sometimes I get bad ones, sometimes I get really good ones, and most of the time they're just like mediocre, and that's okay, you know, no problems. So yeah, there you go. I can have this way, but whatever happens, I'm kind of, you know, being consistent to follow the grid, the perspective grid that I've created for myself. So as long as the perspective grid is followed, I would kind of get most out of my lighting. And the perspective is not super hard. It's like a very simple perspective grid. If I hide all of these again, hide this as well. This is like a 2-point perspective grid. Point 1 and point 2 being on the left and right respectively, and a point 3, which I did for the reasons of like, okay, what if there's a vanishing point in the center as well? So I've got, sorry, I said 2 point, but like basically 3 points where 1 point and 2 points are combined together. And then finally just you know, lines coming from above. Maybe you could have like a point which is very, very far away, so that causes the lines which are coming from above kind of tilting outwards, right? Which gives you that a little bit of realism sense in the build, right? And that's pretty much what I'm doing. So yeah, honestly, if you see this, what I'm doing right now, this pretty much completes my skyline. The fact that I had all this plan, so I took more time in planning, but now that I'm actually painting things, it feels like the execution is so much more simpler. It's because I planned everything beforehand and I was like, okay, this is what it's going to be like. So yeah, it's really worth it, you know. It's really worth taking the time to plan out your painting before you actually work on it. And you don't need like an elaborate plan. It's more like how am I going to make a simple painting kind of plan, you know. So yeah, there you go, there you have it. Right, anyways. And that's how this part works. let's just say I want to give city lights, right? I actually have a brush which I found called City Lights. It's there in the brush pack which I had shared with all of you people. I'm gonna put this in a different layer actually, and probably use white. There you go. There you go. Okay. If I just tap with the pressure sensitivity, okay, it doesn't work that way. I'll just use this. There you go. This is like super rough, okay, and I just do this. Tap, 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 tap. I'm using the mouse for this because I just want a hard tap. Right. To me here. Right. So yeah, this is a pretty neat brush. If you're using my brushes, like they're basically a collection of different people, different artists sharing brushes over the internet. But if you're using my brushes, you'll probably find these when you search for the name. So this one's called City Lights, and you'll probably find this one. Very useful. And I'm gonna clip this. I'm gonna clip this with the layer, with the what you call it, with the skyline layer, and I don't want them like to be like this congested, so I will kind of erase certain parts just to make it a little more cleaner. Like, do this, seriously do this. If you feel that certain parts need to be cleaned up a bit, genuinely do that. Don't hesitate to not clean it up. It really assists things. Right. And then you have a lot more control over like how you're designing things. There you go. See, so much better. Yeah. Okay. Next. This pretty much does a lot of work for me. Close this. For me, like in one go. Right. There you go. Okay, and I'll call this City Lights. So the takeaway from this is like, when you're using a lot of layers, again, because I made notes on how I'm going to paint things and what's going to be in the foreground, background, midground, the layer systems are also arranged. They have very strong, like it's basically I have a very strong understanding to what layer is going to be used and why, right? And that's the goal of this whole thing. You're supposed to be able to do this. And mind you, I'm just blocking out things right now because I've not even started coloring. I've not even started like actual layers, coloring the actual layers. But because each of them are going to be in their own layer, this makes my life so much more easier. And that's the point of this whole thing, right? And then coming back to the notes, I've got like this mid-ground area, right, which is like the road and the buildings. So I've got the road, which could be, let's use this one, probably a little blue, gray blue thingy. There you go. That's pretty cool, right? It's coming in front, right? So I'm gonna do this. It's still okay to be messy at this point, right? The cleanups happen as you progress. You don't expect to do a cleanup right off the bat. So it's still okay to be messy, and this is kind of like the road. And then I have, you could say mid-ground buildings, right? Which is part of the sketch, which is these buildings which I'm working on, right? And I can basically draw them, and I mean, honestly, in this case, I've kind of done it in the sketch. So what I can do is, instead of drawing them again, I'm just gonna hide all these real quick. Instead of drawing them again, I'm just gonna duplicate the files. I mean, why not? if you can duplicate things, so much more better, right? But these I can paint right away because they're so much more in detail. So Control J to duplicate things, take it all the way up. There you have it. See that? Now this ng building. Okay. Now this is where my references come back into play. Not the skyline one, but this one. And I'm just like, okay, I know what I'm making here. I just need to start building upon it. What are the colors? How am I using these colors? Like, let's say you've got this red here. You know, this is where you can actually start painting things, at least the start of it. And it doesn't even have to be like the perfect color of red. Okay, if it's close to red and you got the color right to a certain degree, then you're good, right? So that's how I see things, and that's how I build things, right? There you go. And I have like probably this. I'm just making shapes in this case. I'm not even doing details on that. So whenever you're painting something, you can always start off with like even painting, always start off with blocking out shapes and then actually going into painting the details. Same story, just different, you know, doing a different thing in terms of colors and all that. Don't try to perfect it, build the perfection is how I put it, right? It's that simple. And it's a boring process, like especially if I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm recording my painting. It's boring. It's not really a lot happening in one go. It's just more like slow progresses, and that's how you paint. Right. It's not even perfect. It's not even perfect. Okay. Right. And I could do this and this. And probably take this color again. Do this. And then probably take the reds. And do this. And then probably add another. Right. What happened? What happened to potato? No, potato is not here. Oh no.
Oh no.
Right.
Connect. Maybe
Potato
it's
will be missed.
Wi-Fi problems.
Potato will be missed.
Potato, you will
It's
be
fine.
missed.
This is being recorded, so YouTube,
Mhm.
YouTube lads, I'm gonna YouTube this damn thing.
Mm.
All right.
You'll see the whole lesson on Chicken's YouTube.
Yeah. Cheeky lessons. I mean,
You are
honest-
watching Cheeky Lessons.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to Radio Cheeky, where we are teaching how to make art.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, coming back to this, right? I mean, what I mean here is the stuff that I'm talking, right? The approach, the thinking process, that's what matters more than the, you know, oh, check this out, this is how I paint things. Or at least in the start. After you have a very good understanding of, okay, this is how things can be painted, that's when you start looking for other artists and understanding like, oh, you could paint in this technique or that technique and all that stuff. If you try to learn techniques right off the bat without really understanding how to approach paint altogether, you're not really gonna paint something very good. Um, Not because you're bad. It's just because it's gonna be really hard.
You lack basic knowledge.
You lack basic knowledge, correct? So it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be difficult to actually work with the paint and figure out, oh, I'm gonna work on the painting in a specific way, right? So always make notes for your painting processes. The thing is, when you're starting out, your notes are always going to be like pretty huge. I'm not gonna lie. And at that point, you kind of have to figure out, if my notes are that big, how am I simplifying them? That's also part of the, you know, part of the whole workflow, and it's completely fine, right? You don't have to make it perfect, is what I'm saying. Rather, just try to build something. And like the stuff that I'm doing right now, this painting stuff, right now, this is like a super slow process, man. Like it's not even gonna be fast. It's like actually slow. And I'll take my own sweet time painting this. It's not gonna take me. It's gonna take me like, oh, I'm gonna take a week long, a month long, whatever it takes, and I'm gonna take it slow. That's how I do this. I genuinely like slow down in this part. And I just paint like strokes and strokes and strokes and strokes until I reach what I want. See that? It's just strokes. It's just strokes and lines. What happened? My data died. Oh no. Potato data. But and then like I have this. And you can also like deviate on like how you're making this. Plus there's a tree in the reference on this part, so I can like actually I'll take a different brush. This is where you change brushes. I can actually paint the tree. There you have it. And we're gonna add more glow to this. Actually going in the more glowy side of it, like lighter colors. And yeah, man. Not a perfect shade, not a perfect blend, just good enough. Good. And this orange can be another stronger orange blend here. Right. You notice how this thing is now drawing attention that much? It's because it's the part that's getting rendered basically. So yes, it's gonna draw in more attention. And this is what I mean by this process is a slow burn. You shouldn't be discouraged that it's going to take you forever. You should actually just take your time and make it. And kind of be how do you say kind of work your way into making things rather than trying to make the whole thing right off the bat. Like simplify your work. So yeah, that's how I approach. Like here I'm doing the details because I already had like a pretty good amount of detail on my sketch, but otherwise I wouldn't do details. The same thing goes with the lights. And you notice like I can just paint over the sketch in this case. I don't have to worry about like painting under using the sketch as a reference or anything like that. Note making helps, boys. Always try to do that all the time. You don't have to be perfect about it. I can actually, there is something weird going on here. It has those weird blockouts without the lights, so I can always paint over. So this thing going on, and I'm just looking at it like as a shape rather than a detailed idea. I was hoping y'all can ask something, bro. I don't know if they have anything to ask me.
Well,
Because
explained it very clearly.
yeah, exactly. I'm like there's actually not a lot. There's actually not a lot to ask in this stage. It's just pretty straightforward. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's pretty clear. It's a very simplified process. So when the process is simplified, you don't really have a lot of questions, and that's good, honestly. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. And I'm just following that process, man. Right. So you see, it looks so much more better already, and it just works better in a way. I'm not 100% one-to-one with that building, whatever I'm working on, but like it's good enough. It's close. It's not the best version of it. Probably there will be someone out there who can do a lot better, but it's good enough, man. It's doing a good job, and that's what I mean by building it. You don't have to 100% in the first run of making that. Just try to slowly get into it, is what I mean. See that? It looks so much more simple, right? And if I remove the sketch, it should hold itself, and that's what I mean. I just removed the backside of the sketch, right? This is the sketch here. I just removed it. The painting kind of holds itself despite it not being a sketch. And that's pretty much what you need to be achieving. It's either your pencil lines and sketches blend into your final piece in such a way that you cannot tell whether the sketch is like still there or not, or your sketch, when you paint over your sketch or paint under and over and however you want to go through, the moment I pull out the sketch, the painting still holds itself. It's no longer dependent on how the sketch is. And that's what I mean. If you try to achieve that in any painting format, you're probably gonna come up with good paintings. So yeah, if you, that's how I work, right? And there's like a big freaking section of the paints. So I'm like, okay, take my own sweet time, build it, and eventually come on good. There you go. So yeah. This is like a super slow burn, by the way. I'm not gonna lie. It's like one of the more slower versions of painting things.
It is slow, but it's precise.
It's precise, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, don't hesitate to rotate your canvas, man. If you can't get a straight, brush direction. There you go. Oh, my cat is here.
Or just rotate your device if you can do that.
Kitty, kitty, kitty. My cat is here saying, okay, done. No more. No more. No, cats. My cat doesn't want to learn. My cat is fighting with me because I just held her.
Oh my god.
I just held her away from the keyboard.
Your arms.
She's just like, nah. How could you do this to me? You have to. You are my slave. You shall not be painting when I am around. That's basically what. Yeah.
You shall be playing with me.
You shall be playing with me. You shall be doing what I want you to do. Cat. Thank you, cat, for existing in my life and creating such tragedies.
Oh, nice.
So yeah. Coming back to this, basically given my cat food, and I have bought me some time with cat food. Oh, also, radiant lights. You don't have to make gradients right off the bat. Just do brush strokes here. You see this? Ah, yes. This you can pretty much do. Just make brush strokes. Solid brush strokes. You don't have to do gradient lights. Maybe I'll make this tree a bit bigger. There you go. We good, man. Okay. And another thing I wanted was greens. Dark greens. Have you seen like Bob Ross paintings? I assume most of you have, right? Yeah. So Bob Ross does this a lot, right? If you look at it, he'll just make like this brush strokes, like especially when he's making trees. I think you guys must have seen that because he paints a lot of trees and mountains. So
environment paintings, especially nature.
yeah. So he just.
I don't think I've ever seen him paint a house or city.
He does, but like not cities. I don't think I've seen him paint cities. But like, if you look at his environment stuff, like the way he does the brush dabbing to paint trees, bushes, mountains, and all that stuff, even the water, it's very painterly with brush strokes. It's like he's creating an expression of the paint of the nature, but not really 1 to 100% of that of what the nature is supposed to look like. It's rather just an expression. So yeah, you could do that. You could always do that, and it works. So that will like help.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works. Exactly. So you could do that. I just made something very simple right now. I'm still blocking things out. I'm like very slow at it. I'm like, hey, look, this is not supposed to be a speed version of making things. Rather, it's just supposed to be a very slow version of making things precisely. So that's how I work. on certain paints. See that? Nothing too
Yep.
crazy. Just simple stuff. This has a red line coming here as well. I could just add it actually. Not the best. Tilted. Also, I think you guys have also noticed I don't zoom in too much in this stage
Ye-
because I'm just planning the shapes. Still, I'm not like planning details. I'm planning shapes. Shape of a window, shape of a building, shape of lights. But I'm not planning details. So yeah, simple stuff like this. By the way, I think they used a similar technique like this in painting anime backgrounds back in the day. So if you see all those old movies like Akira and you know, um, if you find a documentary of how they painted backgrounds, you'll notice that all of them painted in that fashion, in this fashion, like very simple approach of brushstrokes. So kind of pick that up, honestly. Spend time learning how to do those kind of backgrounds, and you are probably going to have really far better painting skills than most other people around you.
Nice.
And this is something a lot of people don't teach, right? I don't know how they teach in school, so I'm not gonna ask about school. But like, if you're self-studying, you're never gonna learn something like this on YouTube. Like, how did they paint backgrounds in Akira the movie? Yeah, nobody's gonna teach that. So, I'm just saying you can do it this way and probably be mimicking it to a certain degree, and that's cool. That's all. That's completely fine. Let's make a straight line. Probably take this. And take the blacks. Very dull markings. And voila, pavement. It was just a couple of brushstrokes, that's it. But pavement,
Mm.
right? So this is what I mean by precise brushstrokes, man. You can do this kind of stuff and like come out with good ideas in like how you want to make things. This is not my first time painting in city like this. It's actually my second time to be in a very precise stuff. But my achievement will probably be if I add way more detail than I did the last time. So a long time ago, when Chiki was young, right, I did something which was really, really fun to make. Here you go. This stuff, right? And this was like, this was like 2022, yeah, summer 2022. And I made a painting like this, and that time I just focused on like making the foreground really good. The background, however, was like decent, and I killed it When I say killed it, not in a good way, I mean like I literally flopped when I was making cars and the people standing in there. It's a great piece of work for concept art, honestly, but it's a horrible work for like a final illustration. Um, so I want to like completely beat this level of detail. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this haphazard way of painting thing before. So that's why I'm like, I spend a lot of time focusing on understand how to paint um, um, how to paint things more efficiently, more than anything. And this is where it's brought me so far. So we'll just have to see how much further I can go after. Right. Right, right. And I can paint this. And I'm repeating the colors. I'm not like really using a lot of colors. I'm repeating the same colors every now and then. Maybe a little smaller. Also, I know I'm going to be working on making vehicles. I'm not making the vehicles on the same layer as this. That's going to have its own dedicated layer. Don't try to make complex stuff on the same layer as the other things. Definitely. That's one rule of thumb I would say. Just follow. Like, follow your instincts. You're making a vehicle layer on a different... like a different vehicle layer altogether. Always. It's bad if you know, because designing vehicles is hard, and so it takes a while for you to actually make good vehicle designs. So yeah, never make them on the same layer. Probably take a red here. And then clean this part up. So yeah. There's always something happening between where okay. I hope you guys have got like an understanding so far in what I've explained. And like I said, I'm gonna keep the lesson kind of short because honestly, if the lesson is small, it's far more easier to understand what you're doing, and at the same time, it just makes things more easy to follow. Like, you guys can literally take just this much and practice, and then come back, and then okay, we can go for round 2 and make, like, you know, listen to another lesson and then practice again and then repeat the process. That way, you never overwhelm your brain, which is good, you know. So yeah, that's one thing. Well, that's one way of doing things. So you go. How much hours? How much time have I finished? Oh, I've reached a 1 hour mark anyway. Oh, okay, fine. If I've reached a 1 hour mark, I'm gonna stop. 1 hour lesson. I think that's pretty cool. Right? Alright, let me stop here. My brain is already overwhelmed. Oh shit, okay, anyways. So, yeah, I'm gonna continue this. Probably, maybe I'll continue part of this outside the lesson and then come back and explain some more.